Well, welcome to the Man Cave and welcome to the very first gear update on Air Arms Hunting South Africa. It's probably going to be the first of many simply because I get a lot of new gear sent to me all the time, and I purchase a lot of new equipment all the time, and I really do like to talk about not only what this gear is but also the reasons behind purchasing it, because I don't just get sent stuff from everywhere and accept everything. I'm very selective on what I get sent, simply because I don't like the pressure of having something sent to me and then being expected to say something about it. I only like to review and look at and use equipment that I personally think is really good. We've got quite a few things to look at today. Basically, we're going to take a very quick look at a new little scope cam setup that I think is really good if you've got an iPhone or any phone that can take high quality videos or slow-mo videos. We're going to look at a new rangefinder of mine. It's a Leica Rangemaster 1600R. Very good rangefinder. We're going to look at a peripheral gear bag that I carry around in my field, or in the field. Basically everything that I need on a typical hunting trip, I'm going to from now on be putting in this bag right over here. And then the last thing we're going to look at, it's right down next to me here, is an Omega air charger compressor, which is probably going to be the highlight of this video. I no longer have to think about how much air I'm using when I'm shooting. I no longer have to budget for air fills every month. It's really going to be great going forward. It's going to allow me to do a lot more shooting. But before we start talking about these various pieces of equipment, let me give you a very brief tour of the Man Cave. Well, there's the Man Cave. I hope you're not going to envy me too much, because there are a lot of really cool things in here. We'll just run through them quickly. Bunch of target shooting stuff, little extras like stocks, fishing stuff, reloading bench, air cylinder, bits of memorabilia from my travels, all my air guns. We'll run through them quickly. We got the Air Arms TX200 Hunter Carbine, the only Springer. We've got the FX Royale, one of the best bottle guns available in my opinion. FX Streamline, brand new gun that I'm going to be reviewing really soon. I'm really enjoying that gun. The good old Daystat Wolverine, still one of my favorites. FX Impact, obviously one of the best guns I've ever owned. We've got the FX Wildcat, Air Arms TDR, and the GRS stock for my new 260 Remington, which should be arriving soon. You're going to see a lot of videos of that gun. That's the only non-air gun in my mix over here. And then obviously the Bowtech Destroyer 350. This is the compound bow that I'm going to hopefully be doing 1 or 2 hunts with this year, so keep an eye out for that. Then just a whole bunch of scopes over there, Optizan, Hawk, SWFA, all the scopes I've collected over the years. Little bits and pieces there, scope rings, full adapters, nice big Bowtech poster, spare arrows, planning for upcoming episodes over there. Little caps that I've collected over the years, Air Arms, Hawk, Realtree, FX, everything. And that's about it. A few more extras there, some birds to read. Some books to read. That's how I study up on the birds that I shoot. Chronograph, gongs for long range shooting, toolboxes, storage facilities. And that, my friends, is the Man Cave. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Yep, I'm sure many of you are very jealous right now. But enough of that. You'll get to see plenty more of the Man Cave in the future. This is going to be my studio from now on, and it's really great to have a studio like this, because it means that I don't have to wait for the weather and the lighting outside to be perfect. I can set up lights in here and I can do discussions even at night, after hours, and it'll enable me to put out a lot more videos. But anyway, straight on to the gear, and the first thing we're going to take a look at, as I said, is the scope camera mount made by Discovery. As far as I know, it is made in China. It was sent to me by a local distributor, Airgun Warehouse in Johannesburg, who actually imports these. Louis, who owns Airgun Warehouse, phoned me up the one day, and he asked me if I wanted to take a look at this, and he told me he thinks that it's a really well made mount and it's fairly well priced as well. And I said, sure, go ahead, send it. and I'm very, very impressed with it. Essentially, it's got a universal camera or iPhone or any smartphone mount over here. Any phone can fit in this little section over here, and once you've got your phone set up, basically this just fits over your scope, tightens down with one little lever knob over here, which just clamps it down over the scope. So it's completely universal. It'll work with any phone, and I'm particularly excited about this for when I get my iPhone 7. You're not going to see this on my channel for quite a while, simply because I've got an iPhone 6 which runs out of memory very, very easily. It's not reliable to use as a scope camera because it just doesn't have enough memory space. And the second reason I'm reluctant to film it with a smartphone is because once you've got a smartphone attached, you have to actually digitally zoom in, and when you digitally zoom in, you lose a lot of quality and the final video ends up looking quite bad. But when I get the iPhone 7, which will be my upgrade in a few months, I'm going to be very, very excited about that. I'm going to get the 7 Plus, which has a second lens, a telephoto lens, and that will mean either no digital zoom or very little digital zoom, and so I'll be able to film in 240 frames a second in high quality and get really good videos. And I'm planning to get the 128 gig iPhone 7 so I can just film as much as I want, and it'll be great because that'll enable me to basically film all day through the scope cam and get plenty of footage for you guys. So look for that in the future. And by the way, I'm going to put information of all these little bits and pieces down in the video description so you can do your own research on them if you find it interesting. We're not going to spend too long on each little item. Next thing to look at is this Leica rangefinder, and I'm going to be speaking about this a little bit more in an upcoming hunting video, but basically the previous rangefinders I've had have either been extremely light sensitive. In other words, if there's a non-reflective surface and you try to range against it, you don't get a very good reading, or just you have to press the button a few times to get a reading. And that's been really, really frustrating when I've needed to range an animal, for example, that gives me a small window of time to shoot at and you can't get a range. It's extremely frustrating. So while I have absolutely no problems with cheaper rangefinders, and especially if you're an airgun shooter, you don't need a rangefinder that can see 1,000 yards out. I do think that if you're extremely serious about hunting with your airgun or doing long-range shooting that requires actually figuring out a range in a very short time, I do suggest in long term looking for a rangefinder that's going to last, and the rangefinder that's going to just be of much higher quality than the entry-level stuff. And I made that jump quite recently to this one. This is a Leica Rangemaster 1600R. It sees, or it measures out to 1600 yards reliably, so you can range a non-reflective target at 1600 yards and it'll measure it no problem. So that is really, really nice. But there's some other features about this rangefinder that I like. You know, it's more than just how far it can range. This rangefinder, first of all, has incredibly good glass. Leica is known for making a really good glass. In fact, that camera right over there that I'm filming with has a Leica lens on it. And I've discovered that this rangefinder I can actually use it as binoculars to help scan for animals, or scan the surroundings. And although the magnification isn't great, I think it's like 7 times or something like that, or 3 times or something, the clarity is so good that you can really detect almost anything. Any tiny movement far away, you can see it. It's definitely much higher quality than any of my previous rangefinders. Second thing I like is that the laser beam is really, really narrow, and that means that if there are, let's say there's an animal that you're ranging and it's got bushes on either side, you can get on the animal and the beam is so narrow that it's not going to reflect off those bushes in front, and it's going to give you a more reliable reading. Third thing I like is it's got an inclinometer built in, so you push this red button over here and that will tell you the angle of incline. So you can either use that to look at your ballistics tables you've printed out, you can put it into your ballistics application, or another thing you can do is just set up this rangefinder so that when you click the button to range, it'll give you two ranges. The first range is the true distance to the target. In other words, a straight line that the laser is measuring, that exact distance. And it'll flash a second range, and that is your shoot to range. In other words, you can print out one table with your ranges and your adjustment for that particular range, and you can just wait for the second number to come up, which is your shoot to range, and you just adjust for that. There's no maths needed. This does it all for you, and that is extremely helpful. Okay, so this is an expensive rangefinder, but it's something I've got, and there are absolutely no regrets. I am so glad I spent the money, so glad I got this thing, and I don't think there's any going back. I would say that this is probably one of the best rangefinders in the world. So if you're looking for something that's going to be a little bit more expensive, but that's really going to do the job for you, look no further than Leica. Really, really good. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is also something that's really, really helped me and which is going to definitely help me going forward. And that is a little bag I bought at a secondhand shop for 10 Rand, which is like $1, less than $1. And basically it's just a little bag I can sling over my shoulder, but this little bag just happens to have little compartments that are perfectly sized to carry everything I need out in the field. So I'm sliding my Leica rangefinder in here right now, and as you can see, I have got rangefinder, I have got anemometer or wind meter right over here to measure the wind speed. I've got in here spare batteries for the rangefinder, spare batteries for the illuminated reticle on scopes, spare batteries for the chronograph if I'm out in the field doing tests and the chronograph runs out of battery. I have got earplugs in case I go shoot with my rifle and forget my earmuffs. And then in these other compartments here, I've got a sandbag, which is something I take wherever I go now, because if you're shooting prone, this will just make your rifle so much more stable and still when you're shooting. You don't have to hold the back of the rifle up. This has changed everything for me shooting with a sandbag. And in the front compartment, I can keep spare magazines, a tin of pellets. I can keep targets if I need to zero out in the field. I can keep a little logbook if I'm doing chronograph work or anything I need to write down, I can write down. And that is basically what I'm going to take with me from now on. So no more stuffing things into your pocket, stuffing magazines in your pocket. Sit down, you lose the magazines. Everything's in one bag now, and that is extremely helpful. So I would suggest getting something like this if you're going to be out hunting a lot and you just need something to store all your various peripheral equipment in. Get a bag, it'll really save you a lot of trouble. And now we get to the last item, if you could call it that, in this gear update, and it's definitely the most exciting, certainly for me it is, and that is, I'm gonna have to pick this one up with both hands because it's very heavy. That is the Amiga Air Charger. So let me put this over here in this bigger camera so you can see it properly, and put it right over there. Okay, so the Amiga Air Charger, I'm not sure how many of you will have heard of this particular unit. I know many of you will know of the Supercharger. You will have seen it online on Eggins of Arizona videos. I'll actually put a link down below of a full review that's done on the Supercharger. But essentially this is a kind of like a simplified or stripped down version of the Supercharger. The Supercharger has absolutely everything you need. It's got an outer case which kind of protects it from dust, protects it from, it just makes it look better. You don't see all the internals. It's got a few extra little bits and pieces, but this essentially, if you're on a slightly tighter budget and you just want to get something that will get the job done, and you're not really concerned about all the extra little features that are nice to have but aren't going to stop you from filling your tank, then this little guy will do a perfect job for you. And that's actually why I opted for this one. I don't really need anything too fancy. The Air Charger will do the job for me, and obviously coming in at a much lower price. In South Africa, where people don't really have as much money as over in the States and over in the UK, people here obviously wouldn't be able to spend that much, so something like the air charger would be something to look at. Now, a few things that I really like about this. Number one, let me just run through basic features. Number one, it fills to 300 bar, which is extremely important for me, because filling something like the FX Impact, which has a full pressure of 250 bar, there's no other option than to use a 300 bar tank or 4500 psi tank. You've got to use something that is going to fill to enough to actually allow you number of fills from that cylinder before you have to fill your cylinder again. So I've got two 300 bar tanks, and this allows me to fill them very quickly, no hassles, and it's quiet. I can tell you that. I can have this thing turned on, I can have a nap in the room next door, and it won't stop me from sleeping. So it's very, very quiet. You can keep it in your house. It does fill quite slowly, but I actually like that simply because if you fill a cylinder too fast, it heats up, and then once it's full and you close off the cylinder, the pressure will then drop, which means that you have to plug it in again a few hours later and give it another fill, and it's just a real hassle. So while something like the day state compressor will do a perfectly good job of filling your cylinder very quickly, it's not quite as simple as that. I think it's maybe a bit of a gimmick actually, because you're going to have to fill it multiple times to get the pressure topped up where you need it. So this one fills at a pretty good pace. It's got a Foster fitting right over here, so you can fill straight to, you know, you can fill your rifle. You just put your little fill adapter here. If your gun doesn't have a Foster fitting, plug it straight into the gun, you know, turn the thing on, and it will fill your gun, and it will shut off by itself once it reaches the pressure you've set. And you'll actually see in one of my upcoming hunting videos, I take it with me. I plug it in at the farmhouse, and I just take my little 6-litre cylinder with me, and I can top up the 6-litre cylinder every day and not have to worry about carrying a giant 12-litre 300 bar tank with me the whole time, which is really nice. Okay, so that is a very basic gear update of some of the new little bits and pieces I have. I hope it's helped to answer some questions, and as I said earlier, I will put links to all of these products down below so you can check them out. I will probably be doing a full review of the Amiga air charger at some point in the future. I'm just trying to find the time at the moment. I'm going to be very busy in the next few months, but this is something that's definitely worth taking a bit of a closer look at, and I would like to discuss like very basics of how it works and give you a run through of how it fills a cylinder or a rifle, because I think it's worth looking at. And I will also be doing more gear updates going forward, and the next one will probably be a setup video for my new 260 Remington rifle, which I've been spending a lot of time getting little bits and pieces for and setting up nicely, and all the reloading equipment that I've got for that rifle. I'm really planning to hone in on accuracy with that gun and use it for shooting out, you know, 1,000 meters plus, and you'll see that in some upcoming videos as well. This is the stock, by the way, for that rifle. I'm just waiting for the license to be approved. It does take months and months for a license to be approved for a rifle in South Africa. But look at that beautiful GRS stock. It's worth a lot of these air guns. What a lot of these air guns here cost. Just the stock itself is really expensive. But that's what's coming up soon. Hope to see you on the upcoming videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you then.